crafty friends. Welcome back to Cardz TV. Happy Saturday. This is Mary, and I'm so happy you're here today because we're going to learn a new quilt block. Now, y'all know I keep a bowl here. When I have little scraps left, I go ahead and cut them into 1-inch squares so I can make some quilt cards. Well, sometimes I have bigger scraps left, and I'd like to be able to use them too and not cut them down to 1 inch because that just creates more scraps from a bigger scrap. So that's what we're going to do today. We are going to make it's going to be a 3-inch quilt block, and it's basically a 4-patch, but we're going to use bigger pieces rather than the 1-inch square. And sometimes your fingers just don't feel like fooling with those little tiny squares. You just need something bigger so you can get your card done. So we're going to do a square in a square, and we're going to put some faux applique on it. And it's going to turn out so pretty, but it's so quick and easy. Now, we're going to need a trimmer to cut our blocks. We're going to cut 1 block at 3 inches and 1 block at 2 1/8 inches. And that's going to make our square in a square quilt block. Now, I've got some dies over here that I'm going to be using, like this one, and then my regular old office hole punch I'm going to use for my applique for my cards because I wanted to put a flower. But you can put anything. If you've got punches or dies, and let's say you want to do it for Christmas, you can do snowflakes, little Christmas trees, jingle bells. If you want it for fall, you can do leaves or acorns. Birthdays, you could do hearts, stars, party hats, all kinds of things. But I will be using this little flower and then my hole punch to put the center on my flower. For most of my cards today, I'm going to be using this little die for cutting out my sentiment. It is about 1/2 inch by 2 1/2 inches. And to quilt our quilt block, we're going to use an embossing folder. You can use any embossing folder you'd like. I like this one. It's called Baby's Breath, and it's from Cuttlebug. And if I can find that link that someone sent me, I'll put it in the description box below this video. And like I said, we got to have a trimmer, right? So let's get our papers over here. Now, rather than using a plain white 3-inch square for the base of my quilt block, I wanted to use this black and white polka dot. These are large polka dots. So I'm going to cut this out in a 3-inch square. So let's hope I can see well enough to do this. Let's go this way. There's the 3-inch mark. I want to make sure I get it lined up nice and straight. And 3 inches this way. Now this is not going to be hidden. Usually we just cut, for our base, we'll just cut a piece of blank cardstock or paper because we're not going to see it, but we will be seeing this piece. Now we're going to cut this at 2 1/8. And this does not have an 1/8 mark on here, so I'm just going to guesstimate. I'm going to go halfway between that 1/4 inch and the 2 inch and hope that that's 2 1/8. Let's get these extra pieces out of the way. And 2 1/8. Now we move our trimmer over here for just a second. Now this is all we're going to need to make this square in a square block. Now we're going to take our 2 1/8 by 2 1/8. We're going to turn it on its point, and we're going to put this along the blade. I hope y'all can see that. That arm kind of gets in the way. I know it gets in my way, just like this camera. There we go. And we're going to cut that diagonally. That's what we get. Now we're going to take the flat side, put it up against here, and get that point down here at the blade. And we're going to cut this in half. We've got these two pieces. We'll do the same with this piece. And y'all won't be looking over a camera, and hopefully won't have shadows, and you won't have as much trouble as I'm having. Okay, we're done with our trimmer. Let's bring in our block. Now, we're going to take each one of these and put one in the corner. And you can see how we're going to have our square in a square. And it's going to be on point. And if these don't match up perfectly, don't worry about it, because we're going to trim it off like we always do and square up our block. And it happens sometimes. Like I said, you may have a shadow and you can't see the point on your square when you're cutting it. But you get the idea. This is what we're going to be doing with this. So I'm going to grab my glue and get these adhered down. Isn't that pretty, guys? I love this, and I love being able to see that back. And this is only 2 blocks, or 2 squares. So I'll go ahead and get all of these right up in the corner. Hope I'm getting them straight. But like I said, if I don't, no worries, because we're going to trim it when we get done in case something's hanging over an edge. We want to square it up. I love this paper with the daisies. It's so pretty. Here's my finished quilt block. Don't you love that, guys? I really do. Now we're going to make our card following sketch number 8, except we're not going to do a rectangle. We're going to do our quilt block. And I've already gone ahead and cut the pieces to go on here. I went ahead and made my kits up so I have them ready for today. And we'll go ahead and get what we need out of here. And I'm going to grab my bone folder and give this another crease because I want this to lay down flat. Okay. Now for our applique, I told y'all I used my hole punch and this little flower die, which I absolutely love. And before we run our quilt block through the embossing folder, I'm going to put this little flower right about in the center. Now, I lucked out and I did not have to trim my quilt block. But if you do, now's the time to go ahead and do that. And then get whatever you're going to put in the center of your quilt block and go ahead and get it glued down. And then we're going to bring that embossing folder back, and we're going to bring my Cuttlebug and get this embossed so it looks like it's been quilted. So let me get my tweezers, and we'll get this pretty little flower on here. I wanted to do white like a daisy with yellow center, but it wouldn't show up on here. So I did the next best thing. But I think it's going to be cute. This is a very easy quilt block, but it's going to make such a pretty card. Now I'm just going to eyeball it. It may be too high, too low, may not be even, but I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to get it on there the best I can. So there's our applique flower. Now I'm going to go get that Cuttlebug and that embossing folder, and we're going to run that through and get this embossed so it looks like it's been quilted. Okay, we're going to put our quilt block in. And I kind of like to look at the pattern and maybe line it up so it looks even. I really love that. That is so sweet. It's going to make such a pretty card. And we're going to lay that down and get our top plate on and run this through. Remove my glue. I'll just run it back again. I can't wait to see it. Oh my goodness, can y'all see that? That is so, so pretty. Now we're going to get this on a scallop square and get it ready to go on our card, but I really love that. So pretty. Now our little scallop square is 3 1/4. And I'm going to get my glue. I'm going to hold this over the white background so I can see to line it up. And I'm going to get this attached. Isn't that cute, guys? I love that. The back of this is pretty bright. I want to make sure I get plenty of glue, but not puddles of glue, because we don't want this to warp. It's going to look so sweet on the front of our card. Square it up. That looks about right. Okay, we're going to lay this right over here to the side. And for our card base, this is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches when folded. Now I'm putting a black mat on here. This is an optional mat. This is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. Then I've got this black and white gingham check. This is 4 by 5 1/4. And I did make a change with this border piece. Because my quilt block is so large, on the sketch it's supposed to be 1 1/2 inches by 5 1/4. Well, I cut it down to 1 1/4 inches. And it's still 5 1/4. And then we have a piece of yellow, which is 1/2 inch by 5 1/4. That's going to go right there. So I'm going to go ahead and get all this attached to my card base. We're going to have this card done in just a few minutes, guys. I got so excited when I decided I was going to do the quilt block, because I had been wanting to do a square and a square. And I found out you didn't have to necessarily use 1 inch squares. I just had to do a little bit of extra figuring to figure out how to make it a little bit bigger. And I think it turned out great. This has got ladybugs on the back. Aren't they cute? And we'll get this on here. Haven't decided if I'm going to pop up my quilt square or just put it down flat. I'm going to get these border pieces on and then I'll decide. I decided to go ahead and pop it up, guys, so I've got it on some foam tape. Let me get my happy birthday piece right here. All the cards today are going to be birthday cards. And I think we're going to turn it at a little bit of an angle, just like in the sketch. And put that right there. I love that. That is so sweet. Now I'm going to put my sentiment down flat. And we're going to have our first card done, guys. Using the square in a square with an applique. Oh my goodness, I love it. That is so sweet. I hope you guys like this one, and I really hope you'll give this one a try. It's so simple, but so pretty. Okay, guys, let's move on to card number 2. For card number 2, we're going to use Cardz TV sketch number 58. I've gone ahead and cut my blocks. This is 3 inches square, and this is 2 1/8 inches square. I'm going to go ahead and get this cut just like the first one. We're going to put the points right at the edge of the blade and cut this in half diagonally. Then we'll take each of these, get that point right there on the edge of that blade, cut those in half, and the same with this one, and then we'll be ready to put our block together. Okay, let's bring our glue back and get these adhered to our green and white gingham quilt block base. Just like this. Isn't that pretty? Oh my goodness. Now I'm going to use that same little flower die. In fact, I've already got it cut and ready, and I cut the center already with my hole punch. Here it is. And after I get these glued down, this was going in the center. I love that. That is so pretty. Okay, I'm going to get all of this adhered down. Then we're going to come back and put this card together. I think it's going to be just as pretty as the first one. Line it up at the top and the sides. Okay, now we're going to put our little flower on, just like we did with the first card. And just eyeball it in the center. Okay. Now we're going to put that in the embossing folder and run this through the cuddle book, just like for the first card. And it's going to look just like a real quilt block. I don't know how well you can see this one. It looks like stitching all across there. Can you see that? I don't know if you can or not. I can show you the back. This is the back of a cut apart is what this was. But I don't think there's any way I can turn it where you can actually see it. But trust me, guys, I can feel it too. And it's just so, so pretty and looks just like a little quilt square. Now for this, I cut another 3 1/4 inch scallop square, and I'm going to put it on that. That really makes it pop. I love that. So I'll go ahead and get this on here. And then we're going to make our card using sketch number 58. I love that so much. That red and white and green just looks so clean and crisp. It's going to be so pretty. Okay, we've got our white card base. This is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches when folded. This is optional. I cut another piece of that green. This is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. I always like to back my pattern paper with a solid. Now this green and white stripe is 4 by 5 1/4 inches. And we've got a border right here, which is 1 1/2 by 5. And that's just going to go pretty close over there to the side, just like that. I'll go ahead and get all this adhered to my card base. And then we'll come back and put on our quilt block and our sentiment. And we'll have another card done. See how quick these go, guys? And you're using up your bigger scraps, which is something we always want to do. You could make so many of these so quickly and whittle down that pile of scraps and have some beautiful cards to send to your family and friends. That's the back. So pretty. I've decided to go ahead and just put my quilt block down flat because I've got some foam tape on my sentiment. Now, I cut my sentiment circle with this stitched die, and it is 1 1/2 inches. Let's see, it says 1 3/4 inches on the sketch, but you can do whatever size best fits your sentiment. So let's go ahead and get this down. Right about in there. I love the colors on this card. It's just so very pretty. Now I've got my sentiment on foam tape, and I stamped it with Memento Tuxedo Black ink. Very best wishes to you. And we're going to put that right about here. I think that's good. Okay, guys. I love that. That is so very pretty and so clean and crisp. Now, I could go by the sketch and put a few dazzles or something on here, but I don't think it needs it. It's got so many patterns, and I just want to keep it nice and clean, and it's just such a happy little card. Okay, guys, let's make another one. For this card, I went ahead and put my block together and ran it through that embossing folder. And I know you can see that. Didn't that turn out cute? I just love that little flower die. So cute, and I love that embossing folder too. I am going to go ahead, though, and get this attached to my 3 1/4 inch scallop square. And get it ready, and then we're going to put our card together. For card number 3, we're using Cardz TV Sketch number 2. You'll find all the sketches over at my blog, cardstv.blogspot.com. There are currently 65 sketches, and they're all free to download, guys. Now, let's see. We've got our card base, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. We've got a black mat, which is 4 by 5 1/4. And then I've cut these different sizes. To go right down here, I've got this blue and white striped. It's 1.5 inches by 3 1/4. And to go right above it, I've got this yellow and white gingham check. This is 1.5 inches by 1 3/4. Then to go over here, this is 2 1/4 by 3 1/4. And this piece is 2 1/4 by 1 3/4. I'm going to grab my glue and get all these adhered to my card base. This card is going to be so pretty for a summer birthday. I love this card base. That's so sweet. Now I decided I'm going to pop this up on foam tape. I've already got it on there and got the backing removed. We're going to put this right about here. And you can see how that blue pulls out the blue and the little flowers. I love that. That's so pretty. And we're going to go ahead and put happy birthday down, but we'll put it down flat. Right about there. That looks straight. Okay. I love that. I love the black and the blue and the yellow together. This one also has a very clean look to it. It's just such a fresh looking little card. Beautiful for a summer birthday or even a spring birthday. Love all the colors and that little bit of pink. So there's card number 3. Here are the 3 cards we made today, guys, using the Square in a Square applique quilt block. And look how pretty they are. I love all 3 of them. I don't have a favorite today. Now for this card on the end, card number 3, we use Cardz TV Sketch number 2. For the red, white, and green, we use Cardz TV Sketch number 58. And for our first card, we use Cardz TV Sketch number 8. So you don't have to just confine this to just a card base with a square in the middle. You can turn it at an angle. You can put it on top of a border. Or you can have several different squares for the elements behind your block. And they all look different. And they're all birthday cards. I really had a good time making these, and I hope you guys will give it a try, and you'll have a good time too. I guarantee you. You will love making this block. It's a good way to use up those larger scraps that we all accumulate. And maybe we don't want to cut them down to little 1-inch squares because it creates more scraps. Sometimes in sizes we can't use. So this is perfect for that. Thanks again for coming by today, guys. I appreciate y'all so very much. And thank you for always leaving such kind comments. I appreciate that more than you know. Remember, guys, I love you all. God bless you all. And I will see you again soon with another card. Bye now.